Future Mike here, and you are in for a wild ride today, as the thumbnail probably suggested, because I'm currently filming this in December 2024, but in a moment, I'm going to take you back all the way to June in 2023, when this video began. That's right, this one is 18 months in the making, and it couldn't be filmed any faster, and you're about to find out why. So please join me as we head back in time where our journey begins. It's the 15th of June 2023, a long time in the past by the time that you're watching this video. So why is that? Well, something pretty special arrived in the post, and we thought that whilst it was a present for the boys and I, and something for us to care for, we then realized this could make a really cool long-term video as well for the channel. Shall we take a look inside the box? So what does this mean for a video? Ants and hobby painting? What a killer crossover. The priority at the moment is to care for the ants, and we're going to set up a short-term home for them for the next 4 to 6 months, whilst they live in their test tube, just so they're cared for and they can expand their colony. In the background though, my goal is to spend this time designing an extravagant outworld for them, so when they're ready to expand their colony, they're going to be entertained. I'll touch base along the way, give you some updates, and by the time this video comes out, I'm hoping everything's gone according to plan and you'll get to see something truly wild. A little over 3 months have passed. It's now the 25th of September in 2023, so it's time for an update to see how our small ant colony is going. The ants didn't do a whole lot for the first 2 months, and the reason being that despite having a heating pad for them, the cold Melbourne weather put them into hibernation mode. Then as September began, so did spring, and our little friends found their energy. So the queen has been busy laying eggs, which are now turning into larvae and pupae. Ants really like to be cramped, which is why they've been in the test tube for the last couple of months. However, I'm ready to put them into a basic outworld now. I'll still keep their test tube as their nest. However, with them being able to go out and forage for food, I'm hoping this will stimulate their growth. So now I'm going to build a basic outworld out of an acrylic flat pack. I'm going to grab some supplies and then I'll check back in with you and we'll see how it looks. There we go, so this is how the outworld turned out. You can see on the side of it is the nest component. As the colony grows larger, I'll look to introduce them to this. But for now, I'm going to shift my focus and start to design a fun interactive diorama as an outworld for them to interact with. The last time we spoke was in September, and now it's October. October in 2024. That's right, I told you it was going to be a slow grow video. It has been over 12 months since we last met, and it's going to be worth it because I've got some amazing updates for you. Today we're going to take a look at how our colony has expanded during that time, plus I'll introduce you to a few unexpected guests that are joining the stable, but first I'd love to show you how our diorama planning is going. The setup is divided into 2 parts. One thin wall is the nest itself, and this large rectangle area is the outworld. It's here in the outworld that we will be creating the diorama, and in terms of real estate, our area to play with is about the size of a 1991 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles lunchbox. In the last 12 months, we've had games like Helldivers 2 and Space Marine 2 come out, which is absolutely perfect, because Starship Troopers, Earth Defense Force and StarCraft were all inspirations in my mind for this project, and hopefully these new releases have helped drum up some interest. Taking a closer look at our banded sugar ants, you can see the rapid growth that they've enjoyed in the warmer months. It's tricky to count, but we estimate around 40 to 50 workers, and all those white capsules are the eggs, larvae and pupae. There are hundreds, and our workers spend the day moving them around, massaging them and helping them hatch. I'll try not to turn this into a weird ants facts video, but I will aim to get on the front foot and answer a couple of the burning questions that you may have. They look cramped. Yep, they are. Ants are comfortable when they're cramped in like this. If they have too much space, it causes them stress and they won't manage their rubbish correctly, and that can start to lead to mold. There are these little tabs along the wall of the nest, and as I pull these out, the ants will be afforded access to new sections of their colony when they need to expand. Oh, and what's the go with the red acrylic on one side? Well, that helps create a dark environment for the ants because they can't see through the red light spectrum, but we can. So we can have a cheeky peek inside and see what they're up to. This is actually really cool. As we're filming that part, they're actually starting to open one of the other eggs now and bring out a worker. So I'll cut to this camera on my phone and see if I can show you what's going on. Are they aggressive? No, they're not. They're big, but they're carpenter ants. And carpenter ants are like the ants that you'd find around your home. This particular species is known as the banded sugar ant, and where I am in Australia, they're quite common. And what are they currently eating? Well, their diet at the moment is sugar water, like the aliens in Men in Black, and also some insects like crickets for protein. However, I'm sure if the Imperium of Man were to set foot on their homeworld, they would definitely treat themselves to some of our delicious biomass. Now, if you've made it this far through the video without commenting below with a reference from your favourite sci-fi bug-related film, I'm disappointed. Hit pause, leave me a favourite, and then we'll rejoin. I'll be putting my favourite in there too. Alright, I mentioned the unexpected guests. Now, because we wanted to be responsible owners of our new pets, we did a bunch of research online about ants because we had no idea what we were doing. But what that did mean is when we were out and about adventuring as a family, we started to come across queen ants. Now don't worry, none of these queens have been collected from within their own home like a colony. Instead, what happens is a couple of nights every year, nests that are thriving will produce males with wings called elates and females with wings that will go on to become queens. They all go up into the sky and mate, and then the male dies, which, let's be honest, is a pretty cool way to go. Then the female will land, pull her wings off, and then she's ready to start her own colony as she digs the very first start of the nest. And that's the stage when each of these have been collected. And there's a few different species in there as well, which is pretty cool. And as you can see, they're still in their test tube phase. But what is our plan for them? Well, we're thinking that when their colony gets a little bigger and their first eggs start to hatch, we'll find some families within Australia that think this will be a good fit pet for them, and we'll send them out to them. When I'm finishing off the video, I may even have an update on how they're going. But for now, let's jump across to painting the terrain. Future Mike again. It's now December 2024 on the timeline, and I've given this diorama some more thought. At 28mm scale, like I had intended, the ants would be about the size of a honey badger, which is pretty scary, but I need them to be terrifying. So I've called an audible at the last minute and decided to drop all the way down to about 6mm scale. Now each ant is roughly the size of a Honda Jazz with a Magic Happen sticker on the bumper. There's limited space in the diorama, and by filling it with these tiny future space tanks, I kind of like the idea that we will capture an epic battle against invading bugs. Look how small they are. They're like micro machines. Micro machines from Galuba sold in sets of 5. You guys saw that, yeah? Anyway, this is a painting channel, not an ant farm channel, so let's get some paint down. Starting with a black prime, and the reason that I'm starting dark today is because I want the Planetary Defense Force to be battered and bruised. This isn't the first contact with the aliens, oh no. This is the end of an arduous campaign. One final push where they throw everything they have trying to repel the swarm. To hopefully achieve this desperately in need of repair look for the vehicles, I'm keeping the brush to the side for a little longer, and I'll be starting with a cut up piece of packing foam instead. Each of today's paints are from the Army Painter's new range of Wargamer Fanatic paints, and in case you're in the mood to colour match, I'll add each of the main armour colours up here in the corner. But Mike, is that a particular colour scheme? Maybe a designated army, corporation, or faction? Nah, there's none of that in this video today. Hell, there's not even a particular game system. The models that we're painting are just going to be reflective of our favourite movies. They could be a planetary defense force, they could be a wealthy corporation's private security, or they might be super space soldiers operating in a setting that is both grim and dark. I've pictured that there is a huge battle occurring right now, and our diorama is going to capture a section of it. let's have a look at what forces the humans are committing to this hive entrance. Tanks. It's a good move. I'd be welding the hatch shut from the inside if it were me, but we have a couple of sharp ramming blades on the front of some of them, and for turret weapons, I'm seeing some big shooty cannons that will probably be hard to hit with, but when you're firing into thousands of sidestepping Suzuki Swifts, you're bound to hit one of them. No side sponson weaponry? That feels like an oversight on their part. Surely some flamethrowers would have worked a treat. Ah well, what do I know? I'm just a painter. And this? This tank is about 4 times the size with a cannon that was purpose-built for destroying nests. The supercharged ion plasma is capable of penetrating into the nest and frying the eggs. And we have pods that drop from the sky. I shall name them Sky Pods. Elite infantry and mech suits are stored in orbit aboard command battle cruisers that are surveying the battlescape. Here, the generals are capable of making accurate and timely decisions on where to allocate fighting resources. With a couple of mouse clicks, our brave commander in his armchair is able to deploy squads where they are needed. Roughly a dozen well-trained elite soldiers deployed directly into the heat of combat. It must surely feel like diving into hell. As I've been sponging colours onto the hulls of these tanks, I've been slowly working my way around lighter in colour and focusing my efforts on the sharp edges of the tanks and the centre of their large armour panels. I want the recess areas to remain darker and brown to give off a look of all the grime that's been collecting on them. Sharp edge highlights with my lightest colour, and oof, that's a good looking brush. I find painting is much easier when I'm using a nice brush. For info, I use Rosemary & Co brushes, which are affordable and last me a long time. I'll add their details down below somewhere in the video description if you'd like to treat yourself. Come to think of it, I won't be using very many paints today. I can't believe I've never got into playing war games set in this scale. I feel like I could knock out my entire army in one day. I'm a fool. Gunmetal is going down over a host of metallic areas, and even though the tank pads would likely be rubber, these ones are starting out as a metallic colour, and then I'll grime them up shortly. I'm not worried about accurately base coating these. It's more of an angry overbrush style, and if there's brown gaps, cool. On goes the wash, and by choosing one that is a darker brown, not only am I adding in my shadows, but it's a free stain of grime as well. Now, video games have taught me that all barrels should be explosive and painted red, which would be a massive error on the tank designer's part, but it's also hilarious and would set us up beautifully for a Hollywood moment where a Toyota Prius-sized bug jumps onto the back of the tank, bites into the barrel, and assures destruction for anything within the Bruckheimer blast radius. The drop pods have been falling with an earth-shaking metronomic timing to them, and this one was first to fold the ramps down, which turns out acted like some kind of delicious human piñata for the ants. Time to heat up the main weapon in the army. A simple but pretty glow is achieved by first laying down our brightest white, and once it's dry, over the top goes Data Systems Glow, which is effectively a fluorescent translucent green paint. Perfect. Gluing them together so that we can commence our final step. I have a handful of different coloured weathering pigment powders, and I do my best to colour match to the sand in their enclosure. I mean, the wasteland of their murderous battlefield. I'm using a chonky stiff brush and applying this all over the tracks and in a bunch of recess areas around the lower half of the tanks. They've been punching their way across the desert and kicking up an enormous amount of dust and sand. The pigment fixer will lock this in place, and even if it looks like it's disappearing now, once dry, the coloured powder effect will return. I'm really happy with how these are looking, and whilst there is probably a few more details I could add, surely you won't blame me for wanting to get them into the ant farm. I mean, right, deployed into the battlefield facing the swarm. Enough said, let's buckle our seatbelt on the next descending drop pod, crash into the Earth's crust, and push kick open the hatch as we take a look at the violent combat that's occurring right now. 18 months. 18 months this video took to make, but I'm convinced it was worth it. These huge ants in a living diorama, or maybe they're just scaled down super soldiers, but either way, 10-year-old Mike would have lost his mind over this. Before we take a look at what is next to come on the channel, I think we should trawl through the wreckage and see if we can find any survivors. What do we have here? Who are these magnificent heroes that banded together and made it out in one piece? Oh my, they must be the channel's patron members. Each of them are financially supporting the channel so that I have the luxury of coming up with interesting ideas just like this. And how do I repay my thanks? Well, I remind them that Command have issued the withdrawal of all of the armoured support, so they are now left on their own on the planet, but rather than embarking on a certain and gruesome death, I suggest they start to learn the customs of their new alien overlords and prepare for a life in service of Her Majesty, carrying royal jelly from one location to another inside the nest. Her Majesty thanks you for your service. This year is going to be so much fun on the channel, and I think that this was a pretty fun and goofy way of kicking it all off. I'm going to be piecing together some more painting guides, I'll be continuing my Blood Angels painting journey, and I'll be painting some surprise miniatures that I can send around the world to our viewers. If you've made it this far, it's because you're awesome, and hopefully the channel means something to you as well. So if you're looking for a way to further support me, there's a couple of different things you can do. Number one is there's a whole host of affiliate links down below, and you can find your paints, brushes, models, and more through those. You can join our free Discord and come hang out with us and do some hobby talk, and you can use one of your 6 fancy insect limbs and click that like button. That helps YouTube to recommend the video to new viewers. Thanks so much guys, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Jesus pieces hanging off the fleece. So much going on, it's hard to focus on the features. I got too many, I'm going too crazy, and I got bad ones and they ready. A good time, so now it's in the way we left at. Can't remember anything, but I know